is there we go. Now you can hear me. I'll say hello again. Good to see you. I wasn't with you the last couple weeks, but it's great to see you tonight on Tuesday, July 1st. Can't believe it's July already, but I'm super excited to be back. And hi, Valerie. Good to see you. Hi, Adam. Good to see you too. I know we're starting a little late, so there might be people who don't even know we're on yet, but we are. So it's fun to be back, and hopefully, you guys are having a good summer so far. Hi, Allie. Good to see you. And Allie, I did get your email and I will reply. I promise. Um, I have done a couple of little travel trips and things, so it's been a nice break. Had some family in town and some friends in town, so it's been a very refreshing time. And so, yeah, it's all good. Happy to be back with you guys. And tonight, a couple of things happening. We're getting closer to some of the conferences that are coming up. And most importantly, don't forget about the Creative Exchange in September. And one of the things we're going to do tonight is something I will talk about and go over at the Creative Exchange, but even more so, it's something that I've been doing a lot in the individual coaching. So the individual coaching kind of covers a lot of things, and it can be really anything you want it to be or need it to be. So it can be coaching on specific material. I've worked with actors on specific auditions. They are getting ready to self-tape for an actual audition request. And again, material that's not, a project of mine. And I've also coached for like a callback director session that someone was getting ready to do. And then we've also done just work on monologues to kind of push someone into an area that they maybe the kinds of roles they'd like to be getting and they're not, or material that would push them as an actor. We've done a lot of that where we're kind of just trying to go deeper and challenge you into material that will really, it's not necessarily material you get to do a lot of. And sometimes that can be dramatic, but sometimes that can be comedic too. If you're someone who tends to get the dramatic stuff a lot, but you want to do a little more comedic, it certainly is nice to be able to kind of work on that. So that's been great. Hi, Stephanie. Glad you're here. Happy Let's Talk Tuesday. So we've worked on actual material quite a bit. Couple people who have projects coming up. So we worked on actual material there. They're already cast in a role, and we were working on the material that they will be performing on camera when their project comes up. Then do a lot of going over reels and footage, and a lot of going over headshots. So tonight, I'm going to give you a little bit of a sample of kind of what the reviewing headshots is like. And of course, specific to you, I can get far more detailed and kind of talk specifically as to what kinds of shots or what might be working for you or not working for you with regards to you specifically. When I'm working with you, then I get a sense of kind of personality or a sense of the kinds of roles that might be right, or maybe have a better understanding of where there might be a void in your materials. And so that's the benefit to doing the one-on-one consultations. But tonight, we're going to kind of do a more general rules on headshot. And I want to say from the very beginning, so the photos we're going to show, I actually haven't seen yet. So Diego pulled them, and it is our understanding that these are all just public domain photo headshots. Hi, Don. Howdy. um, yeah, so it's our understanding these are public domain photos. And hi, Elizabeth. And so they're, can be used in a public forum like this. But what I want to be really clear on, and this is the same when I'm working with you on your headshots, I am not making any statement or judgment on these people personally, on their looks, on what they look like. I am strictly going to be looking at it from a standpoint of how effective is the photograph with regards to a headshot, and what are some of the strengths, and maybe what are some of the things that are not working as well. So just want to say that really clear. Hi, Sky. Hopefully you got my email. Yeah, just want to make sure that anyway, sorry, that was a little bit of a squirrel moment. Like, I saw Sky's name and squirrel. Okay, so none of this is personal. I don't know who these people are. They're all beautiful. They're all wonderful. They're all God's creation. So this is not a critique of them or anything having to do with them physically. It's simply how effective is the headshot at specifically as a headshot, because sometimes there's really great photos and maybe a really beautiful photo that would look great in your house and on your wall, or to give to your mother, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's effective as a headshot. So that's what we're going to focus in on tonight. So Diego, like I said, I haven't seen these, so Diego's going to pull them up, and I may ask you your thoughts and questions and see if you're kind of on the same track as I am, as far as what our eyes are seeing. Hold on, Diego. Looks like Valerie has a question. I have a question about AA reels and clips with regards to a particular feature one of my kiddos do have real footage that pull from 47 minutes worth, but I can't post on it. However, they just released the trailers. So I can't yet post the reel. I can only give that footage to Season, not post it. Could I post the trailer on Actors Access IMDb? You know what? I can't tell you that, because that trailer is the property basically of the producers, the production company. So you would have to go to them and ask them if you're okay with that. If they're okay with that, with you posting that, I would think it wouldn't be an issue because it's out there publicly. So I would not think it would be a big deal. You could certainly post a link to the trailer. Absolutely. If they've already posted it on YouTube or something like that, I wouldn't think it would be an issue. But as far as anything officially posted on your profile, I would just shoot them a note and make sure they're okay with it. I would think they would be, because that only builds momentum for the film coming out. And you could even label that like if you post the trailer, just say to be released, TBD, or if you have the release date, any of that. But I can't really answer that because it's not my property to tell you yes or no. So, but I wouldn't think it would be an issue. Post a link to it. That's my thinking. Hi, Deidre from Texas, and Caitlin and Francine. So good to see you guys. Okay, so back to the headshot. So yeah, Diego, bring them on and we'll just go through them one at a time and kind of just talk about what works and what maybe isn't as strong. And again, one more time, this is not a critique on anyone's physical appearance. They are all beautiful. This is simply an observation about the headshot specifically and its effectiveness as a headshot. So there you go. Hi, Ivan. Good to see you. Okay. Headshot number 1. I should go to the side here a little bit. All right. So can you make it a little bigger, Diego? There we go. Now, in this particular case, and tell me if you guys are noticing anything. I'm looking at your comments. Tell me maybe what you're noticing. So I like backgrounds. Like, I don't have a preference whether a background is a practical background, meaning an actual location, or outside or something like that, versus just a neutral background, more like a photographer's backdrop, professional backdrop. I think sometimes they can work, the practical locations can work, but you do have to be careful about a few things if you're going to do a background. I'm seeing a lot of you saying the background is distracting. So that is the contrast behind him. You would have to be careful about, because it's getting more attention initially than maybe he is. And what you want to connect with is the eyes. That's your biggest, most powerful tool in a headshot. So first of all, I would probably crop this slightly tighter so that it's the top of the shoulders rather than a like mid chest. And so my rule of thumb that I tell people, Katie, that exactly what I was saying, that I tell people is your face should be, in my opinion, 1/2 to 2/3 of the total frame, no less than 1/2. Because like the shirt, the jacket, the window, those aren't the things that I'm gonna notice that will cause me to hit select when I'm going through thousands of submissions. So I've said this before on Tuesdays. We get thousands of submissions for many of the roles that we put out on a breakdown. And so we can't audition 4,000 people or 2,000 people or 1,000 people for one single role. And so we have to narrow it down. And the headshot is the first thing we see. It's your first presentation. Now, of course, there's going to be some people who we don't select because they simply aren't what we're looking for. They're not the right type or the right look, or if we're casting a family, they don't look like they would fit into the family we're creating. There's a million reasons, over which you have no control as to why we select some and not others. But all of those specific physical parameters aside, that are being kind of dictated by the director's vision or the specific needs of the role, when we're just talking general, sort of what catches our eye and what doesn't, of course, it needs to look professional, but the eyes are so important. And you really need to make sure that your eyes are lit well. And like in this case, he has blue eyes or hazel eyes. He has lighter eyes, which are a little bit easier to convey in a photograph. But it doesn't matter if you have brown eyes. If they're lit right and the styling is done right, meaning the background, what you're wearing is complementary to your eye color and your hair color, then it doesn't matter. You don't have to have blue eyes in order for your eyes to have that real compelling kind of connection. And so in this case, I would go tighter. The background, I'm not quite as bothered by it as you guys are, but I do agree. I think there are other backgrounds, or they could have gone in and pulled back the brightness of the background and the prominence of those window pane lines. So as far as now, these were just pulled off the internet. So I can already tell that the resolution of the photo, because it's probably a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy and just lives out there in public domain online. The resolution is not as clear. So I'm not faulting any of that because I think that's just an internet resolution issue. But I do like his expression. It is a more commercial, like pleasant. It's just a pleasant look, but it's not boring to me. His smile has a little bit of interest to it. It doesn't look overly plastic or overly like, I want to sell your product. It could work for certain roles. And I do think it's pleasant. I don't think it's boring. I don't think it looks overly stiff. He has a little bit of a smile to where I think there's some life going on in the photo. So, so yeah, I think the strengths of this, and again, I do wish that they would zoom in more so that the eyes were more prominent. If you can imagine this photo with his face being 2/3 of the frame, not only would it eliminate a little bit of the distraction of the background, but his eyes, you'd immediately be drawn right to them. And so, yeah, so it's certainly, I think there are some good things about this, some strong things, and then some other parts that I think could be stronger if you know, that's how I feel. So yeah, Adam, you mentioned face needs to be larger as on a thumbnail. It might not stand out. It's right, because if you, and those of you I've coached with, I've shown you how the layout is for us as we're looking through our thousands of headshots. I've shown you how they look, a set of, thumbnails across the screen. It's a huge difference when you have someone whose face and eyes are pulled back. Well, like, look at my hand. It's if this is someone's face, oh, I hated that jiggle. Anyway, if this is someone's face, the difference of it being back here versus up here, right? Um, it really is far more productive and far more kind of compelling when the face is no less than half, but ideally 2/3. Okay, and so the lighting in the eyes, right? That the lighting is probably, in my opinion, that's probably the best part about this photo, is that they lit his eyes really well, and then I do think his expression works. So, yeah, so I think we're all pretty much in agreement. Okay, give us the next one, Diego. Hit us with your best shot. Okay. Again, wonderful person. I'm sure he's a great human being, but this is not a great shot. Now, this happens, I see this sometimes when the thought is, I want to be edgy, or I want to come across as dramatic or deep, or um, they're almost going against, almost too far against the commercial type and wanting, like, this is theatrical. So you're probably picking up on the same things that I'm saying. Overall, it's dark and there isn't enough light in the eyes. You see a little bit of glimmer, but this really hard shadow. So this is an example, in my opinion, and again, this whole thing, my opinion. But in my opinion, if you were a DP and you were lighting a movie and you wanted these really dark shadows and lots of contrast between dark and light, that's great. That's creating a mood for the movie, for the scene. But for a headshot, it is not as effective. First of all, I mean, I can imagine what his full head of hair looks like. I don't need to see every piece of hair, but this disappearing where you're completely dark on one side, it isn't as beneficial to him. I'm losing the eyes. I personally am distracted by the harsh contrast. I think you can create the mood in the way that you, as the actor, are communicating with the camera, and that's what I'd rather see. I'd rather see you creating the vibe, the mood, um, the character in what you're giving to the camera than using something like the hard contrast of dark and light for a headshot. So right now I'm like, okay, well, the DP or sorry, the photographer knows how to light contrast, but it doesn't tell me a whole lot about this actor. Because if you just look at his expression, you just look at him, there I don't see a whole lot going on as far as that goes. And again, he may be a wonderful actor. I'm just saying I think this is more it's a little more style over substance, in my opinion. And sometimes you wanna be careful 'cause, uh, photographer, you know, they have a style too, so you want to make sure that your photographer's style or that they have an understanding of what you wanna do, and you guys have a meeting of the minds as to what the end goal is. So, yeah, so let's see what you guys are saying. Dark drama, NYPD type. Yeah, except for that I I'm I'm just telling you. So, I'll go back to talking about what I'm looking at when I'm looking at submissions. So, let's use lower numbers. Even though the numbers can be 4,000, 5,000, some of the big episodic 6,000, like tons. You're doing thousands. You have to narrow. So, let's use the number 2,000. I'm going through 2,000. So I don't have time to click on their images, like all the images. I don't have time to click on 2,000 reels. So I'm really going off of initially that connection, that um, sense of who you are on a very kind of surface level initially. And I narrowed down from 2,000 to say 400. So that's 1,600 people that don't make it past the first filter. And so I want to say to you, don't give me an easy reason to say no to you. That's why your materials are so important, because you want to keep being at the top of the class as far as your materials, so that at each point you're making it harder and harder for me to put you in the no category and easier for me to put you in the yes category. And so a shot like this, again, the style over substance, what I mean is the style of the contrast of dark to light might be like artsy and cool from a photography standpoint, but I'm not getting as much from him as an actor to compel me to move him forward. So when you when the competition is that tight, meaning 1,600 people won't make it past the first filter, then don't take that chance, I guess, is what I'm saying. Stephanie Eve, more like a criminal. Could be either. I just want more from him. I also would like more texture rather than the just contrast of dark to light. I think all the texture's taken out of it. And so again, he's probably wonderful and very talented. It's just uh, this isn't the most effective headshot as far as what I'm drawn to. So Okay, let's yeah, Diego, it's a cool artistic photo for a recording artist, not a headshot. It's true. It's a great photo if you're already an established actor and this is just something that you like because of the mood or a contrast, dark light shadowing all of that, but for most people, you I think you would want something different, a little different. So, um, okay, next, Diego. Dun, dun. Look at that. Okay, so the hair needs to go. Diego would not be Diego without his hair. But look at those eyes. But Diego, the suit won't get you the job. As nice as it looks, the suit won't get you the job. Now, see, this is a perfect example. Actually, I'm glad you did this, Diego. You handsome little devil, you. Um, because this is so Diego's headshots are he's a manager. He's not an actor. He's not a recording artist. He's a manager. So he is on the business side of the business. And so it's a different kind of a headshot for what he needs promoting himself versus an actor performing promoting themselves. So, as a businessman, as a manager on the business side of things, this where it isn't too much of his face. We're seeing the suit, the nice smile, he looks very professional, very capable. That's appropriate. If Diego were an actor, which, I have heard rumor that, he's been asked to act before. So if he ever chooses to go that route, then yes, you would completely zoom in way differently, make the face far bigger part of the frame. And it would probably be lit completely different if this were a, shoulder up headshot. But for what it is, which is business manager, talent manager, business side, I'm relatable, I'm relevant, meaning, we're in an industry where you got to keep up with the times and you want to make sure that it feels like you're not living in the 2000s, but that you're current. And so I think for that purpose, all of this works. So there you go. Good job, Diego. Shoot, I can tear this picture up. I was at a conference. I was sweating, which is why my face is I was gonna mention that, but, I have that pathetic excuse of facial. I love it. I love it. Okay. So, um, as I mentioned before, these are copies of copies of copies that live on the interweb somewhere. So, I'm not going to talk about the the resolution of the photo or the fact that you can tell it's a copy of a copy of a copy. So, and for that reason, I think the coloring is probably a little off. I don't know that this is I doubt this is likely what the original coloring was for her headshot. So, with that in mind, I'm not going to be overly critical of the sort of hue because I think you can see it has kind of this greenish sort of hue over it. Um, so that aside, there are a couple things I like about this. I think you can see here the difference when her face is two-thirds, half to two-thirds of the frame. So I think the framing is good. Um, I think her wardrobe, her shirt just being neutral is good. I I don't mind the dark background because she has the light hair, but I probably wouldn't have done dark shirt, dark background. I think I probably would have maybe preferred had there been uh something a little lighter or textural to her whatever she wore on top. And I do think it would have been nice if they had backlit the backdrop, kind of uplight the backdrop a little bit. But it isn't bothering me as much as I think maybe some of you are bothered by it. And some of that does come down to just, taste and what you happen to like aesthetically. Um, I think her expression is cute. This works for like the quirky comedy, and it works commercially, could work commercially. Um, it works for I'm kind of my own person. I'm a little unique. Um, I have a fun energy. That's kind of what it reads to me. And the smile is cute because again, there is a thought process behind it. There's something going on. Like I look at it and say, something funny is in her head. I use this term, it feels like there's life, meaning I caught her in a moment that she was thinking something or having an amusing thought or laughing, with a friend. And so that's what we want. We don't want something that's overly static and kind of overly posed. We want it to feel like we're catching you in just a moment. So now, one of the things that I would caution is the dark eyeliner all the way around the eye. In this case, it does provide contrast, but for me, almost too much contrast when because of the dark background. Um, because your eye is kind of drawn to the darkness, you're seeing the darkness of it. So I would probably have said go slightly lighter on the eyeliner around the eye. But if that's truly who she is and that's how she wears her makeup and that's a true representation of her styling, then um, this is where, when I talk about going over your headshots in some of our one-on-one coaching, then I can be far more specific because I am getting to know you, so I can speak specifically for you. Um, so without knowing her, I don't know if that's really her vibe, but I I think it's borderline too dark, um, in my opinion. But I love the expression. I like the overall energy of it. Um, and the discoloration, like I said, I think it's simply because this is a copy of a copy of a copy. We're not seeing the original files here, digital files. And so I think the discoloration has happened just of from it being downloaded or uploaded or, who knows where it actually came from originally. So, let's see. Yes, Adam, her eyes do really pop. Sky, a bit discolored. Yeah. So that's what you're saying. It I think the discoloration came in some generation of this photo being uploaded. I don't know how far we are from the original digital file. So, um, let's see. Diego, her eyes look great. I think her expression is cute, but I think the dark background and black shirt, black eyeliner, it counters her expression. It's a darker feel, a little confusing. And that's very valid. It I like I said, I would have I think had she just worn something different on top, and I agree with you, Diego, what she wears on top could have had more personality or been lighter or had some texture or just something that went with the photo to lighten that up a bit. But there's kind of this triangle of dark that because the black shirt, the dark background, my eye goes to the dark eyeliner, whereas I think her eyes could be even more effective if it was slightly less. But overall, I think I get a sense of uh if I was doing a role this was submitted for a role where I needed someone who had a really fun energy, who was a little quirky, who, um, was sort of someone that everyone liked and thought well of, and there's all kinds of characters. I think of the show Elsbeth, if any of you watch that show. She's this attorney, who's she started as a supporting character on The Good Wife, and then everyone fell in love with her. She became a series regular on that show, and then, now has her own show. Uh, it's that kind of lovable, quirky, but smart. Um, so yeah, there's a lot about this to like, I think. Carolyn, what about not showing your teeth? I don't have a problem with, because I think the expression feels really authentic and it's more about the expression. It doesn't matter to me if you show your teeth in every shot. I don't think you need to. In fact, I think this is more effective because it feels more authentic and more in the moment and impromptu, which is what we want. We want it to feel just the camera caught a moment. Um, Not showing your teeth becomes an issue for me if I go to click. So when your profile is, your submission is on my screen, I have a tab that I can click that would show any other headshots that you or photos that you have uploaded or your agents have uploaded to your Actors Access or your Breakdown Express profile. If there's 5, 6, 10 pictures there and none of them have your teeth showing, that's when I get suspicious that you're hiding something. So you should have at least 1 or 2 photos that do show your teeth so that we know you're not hiding something. Because to have 5 photos and none of them show your teeth, some people have 10 photos, 15 photos. If none of those are showing your teeth, then that's problematic, and I'm gonna suspect that it's something you're hiding that you don't like, or maybe you have a personally have an issue with your teeth, or, whatever that may be. So, in one photo, not an issue. I like this smile a lot, this, quirky, fun look. But if she has multiple photos and they're all without showing her teeth, then that becomes potentially an issue. Joy Lynn, a light blue top would be nice and make her eyes pop even more. Yeah, definitely. It could catch the blue tones rather than the black tones, because yeah, right now we're catching the black tones of the eyeliner as opposed to the blue tones of her actual eyes. But overall they are lit really well. As far as the photographer, the technical side of it, the way that's lit, I would have loved to seen a little bit more uplight behind her. So between her and the scrim, a lot of photographers will do an uplight to light the backdrop so that there's, some dimension and distance between the backdrop and the actor, and it doesn't fade into kind of this just darkness, and that can help too. Yeah, so, okay, next one, Diego. Sky's asking, "How many photos do you recommend having on an actor profile?" I've heard having a lot isn't recommended. So, you don't need a million photos. I've had this conversation with several actors I've been coaching with recently, and, my caveat to what I'm about to say is that I'm a TV, film, theatrical, um casting director. I'm not a commercial casting director. So I understand the commercial agents' goals are a little different. And so I think you always have to listen to both. If you have a commercial agent and a theatrical agent, you need to listen to both and understand what they need individually, because they can be different. Commercially is gonna be a lot more kind of on the nose, theatrically, much less so. So, I've worked with several actors recently who were basically kind of given a list by their commercial agent of, "Okay, I need the nurse photo, I need the doctor photo, I need the student photo, I need um, the wacky um, lady who works at the grocery store. I need the um, math wizard, so they put on the glasses. So it's like there's a picture with the scrubs, there's a picture with the stethoscope, there's a picture with the glasses, there's a picture with the um, suit coat. There's, and it's all about the props and the wardrobe. It's and they're just kind of going from, this is the classic attorney pose that I see all the time. It's sort of this, I'm going to go back here, sort of this like, well, this pose, you really, we shouldn't see it. We should be seeing you. I have to talk quieter because now I'm going to be yelling in the mic. We should be seeing you closer up anyway. And so I don't need to see that it's a suit coat to know you can play an attorney. I don't need to see you in scrubs to know you can play a nurse. Again, commercially, they want much more on the nose. So they can just say, oh, they need a nurse. Here's my nurses. Oh, they need an attorney. Here's my attorneys. But for theatrical, I want to see the qualities of the kind of person who could play those things. So if I'm casting a nurse, and believe me, this happens, I don't need to see 2,000 pictures of girls in scrubs just looking very basic, and just, I need to see someone who has warmth, who I get a sense is caring. I need to see someone who gives me a vibe that they're compassionate, that they're welcoming, that they're safe, that they're comforting, that they're protective, that they care about people. I need to see that in the way that you communicate with the camera. I need to see it here, not here. This doesn't tell me you can be a nurse. This tells me that you can communicate warmth, you can communicate compassion, you can communicate kindness or gentleness. You can communicate, you're okay with me, or I will help you. I want to help you. Same thing with an attorney. I don't need to see a suit coat to know you can play an attorney. What I need to see is a photograph that tells me through your expression, through your eyes, that you are strong, that you're intelligent, that you're not going to be walked over, that you are, this is more of a stereotypical attorney, meaning, there's all kinds of attorneys that can be like Elsbeth, quirky and different and meek and all those things. But say it's more your stereotypical attorney. I need to see that in the eyes, someone who's like, don't mess with me, or I'm going to win this case. Come up against me and you've got a battle on your hands. That's the kind of messaging. So I don't want you to go into your headshot sessions with a list of characters that you just check off by changing your wardrobe. I want to see qualities of the kinds of people who you can portray, not the jobs they work. Okay. Because someone who gives me a photo that communicates warmth or kindness or a welcoming kind of vibe, or someone like you'd want to talk with because you feel like you could share yourself with them and they would accept you as you are. Like that could be a best friend. It could be a counselor. It could be a nurse. It could be a million different things. So it isn't about the scrubs where you're narrowing yourself into this nurse category. It's about the vibe. It's about the character, the humanity of the kinds of people who work those jobs or who are doing that kind of work. That's what I want to see, not wardrobe changes. So putting on a pair of glasses doesn't instantly mean you're smart all of a sudden. You can be smart with or without glasses. You can still do the glasses. I'm not saying you don't do that, but it can't just be putting on a pair of glasses and I put I put the glasses and the non-glasses photo side by side and they're exactly the same. What's the point? That's just a pair of glasses. I'm not casting a pair of glasses. What I need to feel is if you put those glasses on because you want to portray intelligence, or scholarly or, well educated, then show that to me in the vibe you're communicating, in the way you're communicating, and what you're communicating to the camera. Treat the camera like a person in the scene that you are living in your imagination, in your mind. When you're doing your headshots, create those scenes. What is this scene? Who am I in this scene? What am I trying to convey in this scene? And then do that, not just check off a list. Yeah, Adam, communication with our face quality rather than the clothes. Exactly. And that's what I mean, where I want to see pictures that are alive. I want to see headshots and expressions that are alive and layered, and there's a complexity to I just look at them and think, what are they thinking? And I'm curious about them, or I'm drawn to them, or I'm intrigued. That's what I want. That's what I want to see. Dawn, not Nurse Ratched. Okay. Next one, Diego. We probably have time for one more. Okay. So see, this is an example for me versus the very first one we saw, which was also in a practical location. So this one and the first one, the photographs were taken somewhere outside or in a studio. This looks like exterior. The other one looked like maybe it was like a warehouse or something like that. But either way, they were practical locations as opposed to a studio backdrop. In this case, this background doesn't bother me at all. I think it's interesting. I think it's varied enough to where, and then it's blurred out enough to where it creates an interest to the photograph, but nothing distracting. So, whereas the one before had those really strong window panes and a really strong contrast of white and dark within those window panes, that kind of made your eye go there first before you went to the actor. This doesn't do that. So this is a way, in my opinion, that you can use practical locations and have it work for you, because I actually think the colors in there, it's interesting without being distracting. Okay, so we talked about brown eyes. And those of you who have like brown eyes or brown eyes and brown hair, I would like to see his eyes lit directly a little better. Overall, I think the lighting is nice. His skin tone looks really good. You also don't want to touch up your pictures within an inch of their life. Let us see your skin. Let us see you real, have some real texture to your skin. If your skin has texture, let us see that. And of course, if you woke up the day of your headshot shoot and, had a big pimple on your forehead, yeah, maybe you want to Photoshop that out, but don't gloss yourself up and smooth out everything. First of all, embrace the age you are. Live it to its fullest. Be all of who you are. Love who you are, and put your best self forward. But don't put somebody else forward, meaning who you think you need to be or who you wish you were. That's not what headshots are for. That's what counseling's for. Sorry, I'm speaking to myself as much as anybody else. But yeah, those things work out on a personal, emotional level. But for headshots, put your authentic self forward. And yes, you want good photos that are good representation, an appealing representation of who you are, well done, and all of that. But don't gloss it up. Don't fake it out. Don't take out every wrinkle and every little piece of who you are. Don't de-age yourself. Just be who you are and embrace it. So let's see, Valerie. I agree with you, Valerie. I think it's overall, I think this is actually a very nice headshot. I like the shirt is not black. It has texture. I like that it has a worn look to it. So he feels very relatable. And we're only seeing a little piece of it. This is a strong example of the framing where the face, it's all about his face. And it's not about the shirt or the background or any of that stuff. It's about his face. I think he's done a really good job of really honing in on the camera and really giving a strong gaze into the camera as if he's looking at into someone's eyes. And he's very intentional, and while we don't have a lot, like any distinct expression, there's an intensity to and a deliberateness to his gaze and how he's looking at the camera. And it communicates a confidence. It communicates a focus on the other person. If he were having a conversation, you would sense that he was really listening to you. Um, it could go, so if it was a role where I needed someone who was a little bit intimidating, it could go that, so once you give a certain context, this is one of those that could go either way, and it's nice for that reason. But the most effective part, while I don't, again, I'd like to see the eyes lit a little bit brighter, a little bit lighter, with a little more twinkle in the eye. What he did as the actor, I really like the intensity of his gaze into the camera. I think it's very good. And that shirt shows some texture. It shows, it's worn. Like I said, this feels more like a relatable version of him, as opposed to overly polished, which he could do that too. And this is a good example. So I don't need him to be in a suit coat for me to believe that he could play intensity, that he could play a young detective or a young or a soldier. He's doing that with the intensity of his gaze into the camera, with the intensity of his eyes and the confidence and kind of assuredness of his look. It isn't about whether he's wearing a suit coat to know he could play a stockbroker, a young stockbroker or something like that. So, let's see. Don, a little bit of red on the left. I actually don't mind that, because if you look at as you guys are looking at it, the lower left corner has just that little stripe of red, and the upper right corner has the brick. So I actually don't mind that. I like the little pops of color. Like if they weren't there, that'd be fine too, but I think they're kind of interesting, but not in any way distracting. But I agree, Don. Composition wise and framing wise, much more effective than the window shot was, for sure. Okay. One last one, Diego. Okay, so this is a really good example of what we were talking about earlier with like Diego's shot. When you're on the business side, or you're a real estate agent, or you're, something where it's business, it's much more common to have these shots where it's kind of a, waist high, 3/4 sort of a thing. But as an actor shot, there is no effectiveness in this photo. And I do see things like this all the time, unfortunately. And again, this gentleman, I if he's an actor, um, he could be totally brilliant, but I don't know that this would convey that because and what happens is some people, they'll they'll have a friend take the photos and they think, "Oh, yeah, I look nice." And yes, you do look like use this photo and like I said, give it to your mom or use it for business. All that would be fine, but as a headshot, it doesn't have the professionalism of an actor headshot. And so therefore it's not going to be as effective. The windows, uh, it just looks like something that was taken casually and not necessarily professionally. And so what that communicates to me is someone who's less experienced. So let's go back to what I was talking about. 2,000 people don't give me an easy reason to say no. And unfortunately, this would give me a lot of red flags to how experienced is he? How seriously is he taking this? Because headshots are so important. So when actors kind of disregard that and don't really put time and investment, because I understand headshots are expensive and I understand it's an investment, but it's one of the most important investments you can make. And so all of that would lead me to pass him over for other people whose first impressions are stronger. And that's a shame because he may be an absolutely brilliant actor, but your talent, we won't see your talent if we don't get past some of these other things that might be a hurdle or an obstacle for you. So, and you guys are seeing all the things that were you're saying all the same things that I'm talking about. Deidre says the house is kind of the star. And that's what made me initially go real estate agent. And there are people who, have other jobs and they're pursuing acting alongside of other careers that they have. So yeah, if you are a real estate agent and an actor, understanding that the business headshots and business photographs you use for your work and promotion as a real estate agent will not be the same as the headshots and photos you use as an actor. They shouldn't be the same because the goals are different and what you're trying to accomplish is different. And so the building, yes, too much of the building, that isn't working, that's distracting. Let's just talk about the photo. If it were tightened up, you'd have to really zoom in to where it was just, the shoulders up. It would be better because you'd probably end up framing out the windows, so that wouldn't be a distraction anymore. And the blurred out brick in the background, it is fine. That wouldn't necessarily be problematic. The problem is that it's not styled or lit as a headshot. And I don't know that his expression is really all that interesting. Like I don't see someone in this photo who has a lot of layers and thought happening or intentionality. It just feels like a pleasant picture. Um, and wardrobe wise, I don't know that I would for a headshot, I don't know that I would go with a navy suit and a white shirt. I just think there are better choices you could make. So, yeah, for all of those reasons, as a headshot, it isn't great. And understanding the difference between your business headshots, I had my own experience. So there's a photographer that I really love who's taken my headshots. I've always done my headshots exterior with the backgrounds blurred. So like I said, I there are things about that that I really like sometimes, but both can be great. But we happened to do the headshots, and she said, "Hey, I'm bringing in a friend of mine's in town, and I'm going to bring him, and he does headshots all the time." Because the person who was doing my headshots is more of a portrait photographer, excuse me, than she is a headshot photographer. And she was actually a little insecure about that. And so she's like, my friend's in town. He's been a photographer for, 20 years, and he's does primarily headshots. He ended up taking my picture, and I didn't use a single one. I hated all of them because as I was sitting there, first of all, I don't love taking headshots anyway, because I'm not an actor. But when he was doing it, he's used when he refers to headshots, he is saying business headshots. And that's where she didn't really understand a headshot is not a headshot is not a headshot, meaning there are creative headshots for creative types, actors. That vibe is different than real estate agent, doctor, dentist. And so yes, he was a well-experienced headshot photographer, but business headshots. So he had me posing, and he's like, "Okay, now tilt your chin. Okay, pull your chin a little forward. Okay, turn this left shoulder this way." It was one of those where just micro movement till, well, I felt like I was like, "Hi. Okay, I can't move. I don't know what's going on." It was uncomfortable. It was not effective. I wasn't, even though I know all these things about taking a headshot, I couldn't do any of them because he was micromanaging every little piece of the photo. It wasn't effective. I later explained to her, kind of since we had gone through, I explained to her the difference that business headshots is a totally different thing than headshots for creatives or musicians or actors. It's just different. The goals are different. Yeah. So anyway, so I think on a business side, I would still frame it out. I still think this just feels like a nice photo that someone took of him. Um, but it doesn't quite work, especially as an actor headshot. So anyway, there's a little quick glimpse. And if you want to go over your headshots, or if you are just had a headshot session, or you're getting ready to do one and you want to talk about kind of what would be most effective for you, and kind of how to plan for that and prep for that. That is something that I do in the coaching. I'm not saying this to like promote the coaching, although we do have spots available in July. And then in a couple weeks, we'll open up August, September. So we'll keep you posted on that. But July, yeah. So we do have availability in July for sure. Yeah, then we can be specific to you and what shots work for you, right? Why redo something that's already effective, but maybe where the holes are, or one of the ones I did recently, her goals and the kinds of things she wanted to be doing versus she just wasn't getting called in, and she was booking a lot of commercials, but not getting a lot of theatrical opportunities. And we looked at her headshots, and they were very commercial. And so yeah, we can just be specific that way. So if you and any of the things, coaching things, there are available spots in the month of July. So you can go to the website he just posted and look that up. And I love doing the coaching, and I love working with you guys. So if that's something that will be helpful to you, then please check that out. But I also, again, on Tuesday, try to share kind of general things that will be helpful to you guys, because I realize not everyone has the availability to do the one-on-one thing. So my Tuesday nights are what I try to do to just be helpful and provide everyone a little bit of information that will, my hope is that will be helpful to you and kind of be beneficial to you in general. So, okay. I think that's it for tonight. I did have a thought on what I want to do in the coming weeks, which is I want to talk about specific markets. So each week we'll talk about a specific market. I'll have some guests from that particular market. So, for example, Atlanta, we have a casting director and a local actor from that area talk about what's happening in that market and what's working, maybe what's not, what are some of the challenges, what's the energy like. And I'm thinking Atlanta, Nashville, Dallas, and Oklahoma are my 4, because I don't think we really need to highlight LA or New York or Chicago. Those are kind of the majors, but I thought for the kind of sub-markets, Atlanta, Nashville, Dallas, Oklahoma, if you have other cities you would like me to highlight, let me know and we can take a look. And if there's one where I feel like I have enough resources to really highlight that particular market, I'll be happy to add that to the list. So we'll keep you posted. It won't be like every week consecutively that we'll do market to market, but we'll let you know, like this week we're going to talk Atlanta market, and that way you'll know in advance and you can make sure you tune in or check it out. Remember, everything goes on YouTube afterwards. So if you see something and a friend of yours wasn't able to join, you can always tell them to check out the YouTube page, and all the videos live there as well. So I think that's it for tonight. Love you guys. Appreciate you. As always, I love your feedback and your chiming in. We were in agreement, I think, on 99% of everything. So, yeah, guys are smart folks. So yeah, have a great 4th of July. God bless America. We need it. So yeah, we can pray this week for our country, for our leaders, for everything going on. In Idaho, we had that tragedy. I'm in the Boise area, so I'm in southern Idaho. It was all the way up in Coeur d'Alene where the tragedy happened with the firefighters who were shot and killed and wounded. But it does just drive home that, man, people need Jesus. People need something bigger than themselves to hope in and live for, and just a model of how we treat each other and love each other. And so anyway, yeah. So happy 4th of July. I hope you have a wonderful, safe holiday weekend, and I will see you next Tuesday. Bye.